Hello and welcome. This is a little introductory video for applicants to the Kansas City School Psychology Internship. I'm Dr. Pam August. I'm the Internship Training Director, and I am going to go through a little presentation here and share some information with you about our site and about what we have going on here. Today, I just want to talk about the purpose of this video is really just to help you as applicants become more familiar with our site and what we offer in the internship and in North Kansas City schools. There's the virtual interviews are great. They're such a time saver. They're such a money saver, but we do find that it gives a little less information to applicants about who we are and what we do. And these are big decisions ahead. So we make a little weird video like this every year to just tell people about as much as we can of those frequently asked questions about what we're like. So I'm going to go over our training philosophy, tell you a little bit about the district, what some of those common intern activities are, and the specializations you can get into, and a little bit about summer. And then we'll be meeting soon. You'll have a time with our team of current and former interns where you can ask them questions as well. And you'll then, of course, have your interview with myself and Dr. Wallace and possibly Dr. Cook if she's available. So there will be lots of time to ask further questions, but I just like to get some of these kind of common questions or wonderings you might have out of the way. So a little bit about some highlights that I wanted to share. One thing that I think is important to know about us is that the Kansas City School Psychology Internship is housed in North Kansas City Schools. And here in North Kansas City Schools, we have a really large school psychology department. We're quite lucky, I think. We have 26 members of the department. 4 of those are interns, and the other 22 are certified school psychologists, or a couple have different certification. But overall, we have a big team and a lot of opportunities to collaborate, a lot of great mentors in the department to connect with and things like that. We also are part of a great special education department within the district. So our interns work really closely as well with our special education coordinators and specialists in different areas and things like that. Within our district, we have 2 licensed supervisors. We expect we'll have more, actually, probably by the time this cohort arrives. We have 3 all former interns who are finished their doctorate degrees and have done their postdoc supervision here and are all working on writing the EPPP soon. And we met to go over some paperwork for their license applications. So we think we'll have a lot more licensed supervisors soon, which is fantastic. We also have licensed supervisors at our partner site, University of Kansas Medical Center Child Development Clinic. It's a bit of a mouthful. KU Med is what we call it. And Dr. McGovern is the lead supervisor there, and she was actually a former intern here too. So we're really big on growing our own. And we love that people are willing to kind of stick around and keep working with us throughout the years after they finish their internship. Next year, for 2026, 2027, we are expecting 3 doctoral interns and 1 educational specialist intern. And one thing that I think is a highlight is because we have that big department, we do offer a lot of the didactic seminars and things like that are aligned with the larger department that we do for our whole team. So we have specialized professional development because we're such a big department. That all of our school psychs get to participate in and learn alongside the intern cohorts as well. And I'll get into a little bit more detail on some of that in just a second here. So yeah, our internship structure, how this looks, and of course, a lot of this is designed to meet those APA, APIC, NASP standards, check all those boxes. So what we have usually is 2 hours a week of individual supervision with your assigned supervisor. I personally supervise 2 interns usually. Dr. Wallace will supervise 1 of the doc interns. And then we have another supervisor who works with our ed specialist student to make sure they all get that. And then I usually lead the 2-hour group supervision that we do each week. Part of that is actually with our larger department as well. We have a process that is unfortunately named CEST, but it stands for the special education support team, and that is really our district referral team. So our school psychologists bring, if their buildings want to maybe have a student evaluated to see if they qualify for special education, they can bring other questions too, but that's a common one. Then they bring it to this team. Interns always join in, and then our regular psychs kind of rotate through. They come usually once a month. And so that's part of our group supervision, is getting to see cases from all over the district. And then part of the time is just with interns. So it's about half and half. So it's kind of cool. You get to see what other psychs are up to who are not currently interns, although many of them were former interns. And then we do an average 2 hours of didactics a week. Usually it's more like one day a month. We kind of knock the whole thing out. But there's a variety of seminars and trainings we do. In the fall, especially, there's more, the district will have professional development days, and we have like the state conference we can often send our interns to. So if there's opportunities in the area for great professional development that aligns with our goals, then we'll kind of take advantage of that and mix it up a little bit to get those didactic hours. And then on months when there's not anything like that going on, or if we have some stuff we have to cover to make sure we hit all of those learning objectives, then we'll do seminars on our own. We bring in some speakers. We've got great experts within the district, or, friends from nearby. So we'll bring in some speakers, sometimes pull in webinars or other trainings. So the didactics look pretty different from week to week. We try to keep the variety there so that it doesn't get too boring. And then outside of the training components that are required for internship, I wanted to kind of briefly summarize, and we can talk in more detail, but just about what the usual responsibilities are for a school psych intern here. Definitely special education evaluations are a big piece of it. That's kind of what pays the bills, keeps the lights on. We do expect the interns to manage the caseload of evaluations at their school, and they usually just have one school in a smaller elementary building. The school psychologists and the school psychology interns in our district are very much the MTSS building leader. We're really proud of our multi-tiered system of supports here in North Kansas City. It's well established. We've been doing it for about 20 years, but it still requires constant maintenance and support and vigilance to make sure that everyone's doing what they need to do, the students are in the right interventions, that the progress monitoring is being done correctly. So it's definitely a steep learning curve because we start off the year doing screening and putting students into intervention groups, but interns get a lot of support behind the scenes, or often they'll have a supervisor go out with them to those first rounds of meetings. And they really lead their buildings through. By this time of the year, they're feeling pretty confident as they're the building expert in the tiered interventions. And so they'll make those recommendations and referrals for what students should get or when changes need to be made. Our school psychology interns also do a lot of behavior consulting. So they will, sometimes just really informally talking with teachers in the hallway, and sometimes more formally writing behavior plans, writing FBAs, and that sort of thing. We also make sure to get some individual and group therapy throughout the year. We'll find those cases. Usually they come up as, issues arise, and we'll find good candidates. If not, we can always reach out to other buildings and find those resources too. And then we just really love for our interns, the reason we have them placed in a building is to make sure that they form those connections with the building leaders, with the building staff, and are really looking at that big picture at the school level of what's working, what's not working, and what are those student needs maybe that are unmet, and trying to kind of problem solve. So we've had interns maybe, revamp a school's tier 2 behavior team, or maybe come up with a process for behavior referrals, or maybe initiate a new intervention that the school hadn't tried before, and things like that. So we really encourage interns to sort of be there, be part of that team, learn how things work, and then later in the year, maybe they'll have some suggestions for how we can make things better. And we're always trying to get better. So that's kind of an overview. Those are the big pieces of how the time flies by when an intern is working here in the district. Just a little bit about North Kansas City Schools. So like I said, we're pretty big. I'll tell you a little bit more about our students in a minute, but we're growing. And so they're building a lot of new schools every couple of years. It seems like a couple elementary buildings or middle schools pop up. I think we need a new middle school again. So that'll probably be the next project. Um, they have built some really cool, kind of innovative and fun spaces. Those pictures there, the top one is our gifted center. So they call it SAGE, Students in Academically Gifted Education. And it's a really neat space where students go once a week if they're in that program. We do the assessments to see if they qualify for that. And there's like maker spaces and podcast studios and whiteboard walls and all kinds of cool stuff, flexible everything. So that's a really neat place that we get to see. And then the picture on the bottom is our early childhood center. I can't tell you enough how cute it is. I guess it's not as new as it used to be, but I think it opened in 2022. And it houses throughout the week of like 1,000 students coming and going for anywhere from special education preschool to Title I preschool to paid tuition, sort of more like a daycare center, to itinerant services if kids are just popping in for speech and things like that. But it is just a really cute, we kind of took over an old strip mall. So it's a grocery store and a Hobby Lobby that closed, and they made it into like 40 classrooms for these kids. And it's just really fun. Um, we also have actually right next to that in that same strip mall, they built a new professional development center. So there's great meeting spaces for all of our learning and professional development that we do and our meetings and things like that. So that's kind of central in the district because we are spread out over, I want to say 60 square miles. It's pretty big. We cover a lot of area and we have a team that, works out in the buildings. So those are places where we can all come together and collaborate. And there's just kind of always new things coming. They have pretty good support from the taxpayers through different bonds and initiatives and things like that to keep things growing and keep up with the demand. We do, or we're home to a very wide range of students. So we have over 21,000 students. That's from ages 3 through 21 that we serve. Great diversity, and that's one of the first reasons that I wanted to develop an internship program here is because there's great exposure to people from all different backgrounds here in North Kansas City. Definitely race, ethnicity, religion, language, ability, like everything. About 55% of our students identify as white. And then from there, I think those stats are maybe a couple of years old, but probably don't change too much. So about 15% Black, 15% Hispanic, 11% multiracial. Really wide range of languages spoken. I think about 110 different languages. We have a lot of refugees that settle in North Kansas City area. And so we see people from all over the world that come here. And we also have a lot of variation in terms of the socioeconomic status. So overall, 38% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch, but it varies between buildings. So we'll have some buildings where we have more like 70 or 80% are in that financial need category, and other buildings where it's 5 to 10%. So there's diversity within the buildings, and then there's diversity, I think, within the district and the types of communities that each building serves. Um, about 14% of our students qualify for special education. That's gone up in the last few years since COVID. Something we're looking at now and trying to make sure we're making the right decisions. We're always kind of reevaluating our processes. It is slightly lower than the state average in Missouri. And one thing, because we have a large population and we have a large special education population, and so many different needs, we are able to provide a lot of services within the district. We are not much big on contracting out, which is great because then you get to meet and collaborate with professionals from a lot of different specialties. So we have a whole vision team. We have people down the hall actually creating Braille resources for kids and teaching Braille, hearing, speech, OTPT, assistive technology, and all kinds of intensive services. And so we really like to kind of open that up to trainees and find out what their interests are and then match them up with those experts or with those unique students so that you can kind of tailor your learning a little bit to your interests. Um, we've been running an internship for Well, interns have been a presence in North Kansas City since actually before I got here, and this is my 18th year in the district. We've been running a doc internship. I believe this is year 11 for that. And so that's our last four cohorts. Um, and from each of those pictures, there's at least one person who still works here. So we're really proud of that, that people are willing to stick around. And that picture in the bottom on my left is our current cohort. So you'll meet them at the intern meet and greet webinar in a few weeks or in a few days, probably by the time you're watching this. Those pictures do include our EDS interns as well, so that's why it looks a little bit bigger than some of our numbers. But yeah, and we encourage interns to stick around if they can. The internship is a 1 year position. And so if we have a job opening within the district, then we encourage interns to apply. And if interns do want to apply for that position and stick around, then I can usually provide that postdoc supervision. Actually, Dr. Wallace can provide it as well. So we will usually be able to get people their postdoc hours if they do want to stick around for a job. It's not a formal postdoc, but it's something we love to be able to provide. We chose not to make it a formal postdoc so we can pay a full salary and um, just make it like a normal job with that little bonus. So yeah, and those are some of our friends that have been through here. Some initiatives that I wanted to highlight in the district, like I mentioned earlier, MTSS is a huge, huge part of what we do. I think that's why a lot of people want to come here is to get that experience. And usually they find out it's maybe not pretty every day, but quite rewarding. Um, the belonging and inclusion initiatives that we've been doing since, I want to say 2017, 2018, the district really increased their investment, both time and financial and everything into those initiatives, and they continue and are going strong. Um, we have a lot of things, even down to the picture of Maplewood there is one of the newer schools we built. Not only are we building new schools out into the suburbs as the city kind of expands, but we also have built beautiful new buildings in some of our older and lower SES neighborhoods. And there's been a real kind of thoughtful focus on making sure that it's equitable how we're spending taxpayer dollars, that we're providing similar educational experiences to all students. And some of these schools have really become like a point of pride for the neighborhoods. And we saw huge increases in enrollment in some of these buildings that we opened when we took a building that had been, 50, 60 years old and run down and opened up a bright new space with big windows and cool lettering. And it's amazing. Kids just show up. A little bit of a struggle for some of the teachers to handle when their classrooms suddenly fill up, but a really good problem to have. We've also expanded significantly our early childhood programming, and I showed a picture of that building. They also have MTSS for social emotional at our early childhood. They started that a few years ago, and that's been a fantastic initiative. They do a lot of focus on behavior and self-regulation and things like that there. We also have a lot of focus on SEL, social emotional learning, and mental health. We have a lot of partner agencies that come in and provide therapeutic services. We have behavior support people within our schools, something we've seen a big growth on, and the district really worked hard to try to respond and meet those needs that have increased. So within each school, there's an agency that is contracting that will come in and run resilience groups or art therapy groups or sometimes do one-on-one therapy. So in addition to our school psychs, our counselors, and our social workers, we also have some outside providers. So we have a range of resources that we're able to access. And then we also partner really closely with our ELL department. Like I said, we have all these different languages, all these different cultures, and we get to learn some really great things. And so we actually have a separate path to referral when students are not making good progress in their ELL. Then we meet with our ELL director and pull in a whole bunch of information and really kind of get into it to try to make sure that we're making good decisions for students who have backgrounds that we're not as familiar with. So those are just a few of the things that we've done in the last few years to kind of expand our capacity. We do offer areas of specialization through the internship. This will look a little bit different for every intern depending on what their interest is and how that fits into their day to day. Sometimes interns come in and they're really interested in autism, and that usually is something that pops up already in their schools quite naturally. Um, but if that's something they want to learn even more about, we have some specialized classrooms, we have intensive teaching programs, all that. So really, if anything on this list is something that jumps out, or there might be things we haven't thought of that people have interest in, we can usually partner the intern with, like I say, an expert that we have within our district or some students who have that need, and get some extra cases and extra time that align with that interest, just to make sure that that our trainees are kind of leaving here feeling like they are well prepared for their future. And just kind of where we're headed from here. It's been a few years now since we got APA accreditation. They gave us 10 years, so we're feeling pretty good about that and expecting that to continue. Like I said, we are growing our team of supervisors. We're expecting to have a few more licensed staff in the next year or two, which will kind of mean a deeper bench and maybe some different opportunities to mix it up for supervision so people don't have to hear my speech every day all week. With that, we're looking to potentially increase the cohort, but not for this year. For this year, we'll have 3 spots, but in the future, we might add one. And then in our summer rotations, I'll talk about that in just a second. We are always looking for options for that. When the school year ends at the end of May, usually, we have a little more flexibility with how our interns get their hours. And so we're always looking for opportunities to have them go out in the community and learn some different things there, to make sure that they're finishing up their hours, getting that 12-month experience and mixing it up a little bit and getting some different experiences that hopefully they can kind of bring back to the school to have a better perspective. I mentioned the postdoc options already. That is just through applying for a job here. And then our summer rotations, right now, our main partner for that is the University of Kansas Medical Center. That's a very cool picture of it. The building that the Child Health and Development Clinic is actually not as pretty. It's kind of tucked in between those buildings there. But it's a great clinic and they do really cool things. And like I said, Dr. McGovern's there. So they have 2 spots every summer for our interns to go, and they do autism assessments and parent consultation and parent-child interaction therapy and all kinds of really great stuff. And so they get to really kind of get embedded in that for basically June and July. It is a lot more flexible because it's just a smaller rotation. And if interns, depending on how many hours people need, then they may not necessarily work a full week all summer, things like that. We try to really tailor that experience, but that's been really cool. And then we also have the option of doing a rotation in more intensive behavior cases or more low incidence programs, because we do have students in classes in June and July, not for the entire months, but between that and then doing some projects and research and things like that, and helping me with managing some of our data and stuff like that, we've been able to put together a rotation here in the district. And then I'm kind of always in talks and keeping my eye out to see if there's any other hospitals or clinics or things like that that would maybe add to that summer rotation. So very well could be a possibility that there's another option by the time the summer of 2027 rolls around, which is what you all are looking at. So those are just kind of some basic things I wanted to share. Hopefully that'll kind of generate discussion and questions for your interview. And if you have any questions, then I will be seeing you really soon. So hope this was helpful, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. Have a great rest of your day.